versus the other? Okay.
I think to your point, heritage probably works better, but I think heritage destinations or that's right. I know what you're saying.
Okay. Nick Firth.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. The other thing I was going to add was history as well. Where did it seems like arts and recreation have kind of jumped to the forefront of the conversation, and certainly I haven't seen these really brought up before to be number one. Is this something that you're recommending as being the kind of rebranding focus for the Lorton area?
I mean, I think it's something that we saw as emerging strengths for Lorton. You have, and certainly I appreciate, and we did discuss the heritage history as a third pillar, but certainly, it's what distinguishes you, quite frankly, from the areas to the north and east, which are a little bit higher density, transit served, and have that as its boon. You're at that threshold, right? You are the gateway from the south. So you were at that point of people are merging and entering the national capital area, but you are distinguished because you have so many large parks and recreation spaces, and you're building upon those. Of course, the arts is because of workhouse arts and other pieces that you're bringing to the area. And it's what we heard from folks, from the stakeholders and from the community workshop and other things. So those were what we saw emerging that differentiate you, that make you different from some of the other places around.
Okay.
Okay. Ahmad?
Oh, he's not here, is he? Oh, yes. There he is.
Well, I do see him, but I don't hear him. Ahmad, if you are with us and can unmute, great.
Yeah, I think I just unmuted. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I kind of don't really know where to begin with respects to some of the things that I'm hearing, because to me, I think in the grand scheme of things, and this is what I'm concerned about, are we being candid with respects to, is this shift a shift because of funding issues, more so per se than an actual vision thing? I mean, I would prefer people to be honest, with respects to that, because if the funding is being shifted somewhere else, then let's just call a spade and say, well, that's what's occurring here. Because I find it very interesting that, the commanders can invest $100 million in Woodbridge / Dumfries and see that be now that's a pretty substantial investment that will absolutely impact this area. There's no way you can't see the correlation between the two. And that's just where I'm at. I'm just I'm just trying to understand the process with respects to everything as far as what we're saying. And I used to work at Fairfax Hospital. I visited the Mosaic area for years, and I don't know.
Well, can I come back to you on that particular question of, if you think that's appropriate and where something similar to that might take place, or if you're saying no. Just generally though, I mean, do you have any I'll just ask you this one question, Ahmad. Do you have any large objections to the arts, recreation / history, heritage as just governing identity builders for this area?
No, I guess not. I don't have any large objections.
Well,
no.
I want to get to your question, but I want to address it in some of the other pages that we have too, that talk about what type of development where, and what's, what do you see as what is viable and what is appropriate for the area, and then where within the study area. So I'm going to ask you to hold on that thought for just a moment.
No
Tim Reiser.
So obviously my involvement at the Workhouse Arts Center and the Mount Vernon Tourism Task Force tells me and shows me a lot of stuff going towards the referencing the arts and entertainment and history and recreational opportunities exist here. And then if you add to it the Alpine X, and even for that matter, Ahmad's comment, which is a valid one, which is with Woodbridge potentially being a site of a new Commanders stadium and whatnot, there's going to be an awful lot of stuff for about entertainment.
Okay.
Arts and entertainment is I think is maybe the niche that we want to use to do the other things, but it's just that's just the coloring that we color
Right.
the
Agreed with that. Letishma Walters, you're with the county. I'm going to try to stick with folks. Did we get through all the task force members?
No, you didn't go. This is Angelique.
Okay, Angelique, sorry, I didn't scroll down far enough. I apologize. Go ahead.
No, I don't have any objection. I like the theme of arts and entertainment.
Okay. Anyone else who I did not call on from the task force? Okay. I'm going to move to the second
Actually,
question.
We have one more. This is Megan. We have one more task force member. Andy is here. So I'm not sure if he can, if he's something.
Why am I?
Yeah,
not
I'm here.
seeing-
Andy,
Okay.
is that, are you, which, I'm sorry, I thought it
Oh,
was.
Andy G. Okay, I see. Sorry.
Andy, is this Andy Galusha?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought this was our other Andy from the task force.
Okay.
My apologies.
Okay. All right. So we'll move to the second page here. I'm going to minimize this and expand it. Okay. Very good. So the framework recommendations reflect the priorities set by the task force and other members of the community for exploring pedestrian bicycle connectivity to the neighborhoods west of I-95. I don't know if we want to spend a whole lot of time on this. I've heard some counter opinions to this, but what are potential barriers for making the connections due to the historical lack of connection in the development? I would kind of further that question, just say, are there any objections to the locations that we're showing or the main idea of connecting? I heard, I think from Linwood that, of course, make those connections, but if there's anything else anyone wants to add on this point, otherwise, if it's largely in agreement, we'll move on to the more in-depth conversations. I'll open the floor. Anyone who has any objections, who has a counterpoint of not making connectivity, or who has an issue with the specific locations that are suggested. Again, this is focused on connecting to the west.
And when are you referencing a framework plan that says transportation with the connection?
Oh, you're not seeing it up on screen? Did I lose my share? You should be looking right now at it's the framework plan vision that's labeled arts and recreation, or art and recreation. We haven't gone to the transportation one yet. Some of the same ideas are shown on that, Angelique.
This is Mike Linsky again. I would just point out that the one connection under I-95 is a particular sort of big ticket
Yes.
kind of item, and it has been recently studied, and it's a feasible connection, but it's a big ask. That might be something that needs to be sort of called out specifically as being important and that kind of thing.
Right, absolutely. There are topography challenges, just the distance, a challenge, and I know it was studied with the Lorton station.
But it's kind of important to,
It is. It's vital to get a connection point. I would also add that Lorton Road, right? If we get that connection to the north, Lorton Road, if with improved streetscape and the arts trail as envisioned, would add that southern east-west connectivity across I-95. So I think both are important. Any other thoughts? Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next page, which probably gets more to the heart of issues.
Is there any reason why this didn't show going off the map over to the workhouse? Is that just like too far, or and I don't want to get too deep.
Yeah, I mean, just to answer that quickly, Linwood, there will be a larger context map. And yes, that's just off the page. The idea is that, yes, it would connect, but we had to zoom in to show some more detail. And that's really the answer. Okay. So question 3, the framework elevates Pohick Creek Trail System to a connecting element to help, knit these locations together, but through environmentally sensitive area. So we can improve the trail. We can't add in development in these areas that are environmentally sensitive, but we can certainly connect people to the different areas in other ways other than vehicular streets. So that Greenway spine will help and actually ties together things very nicely, as well as the elementary school and other important destinations like the new community center, as well as recreation fields. So how would this concept benefit the residents of Lorton and complement potential redevelopment in the focus area? Are there any negatives to it? We just see it as a good way to create structure and linkage between the areas. I'd love to hear, let's go through the loop again. I'll start with Angelique this time. Any thoughts on that? Any objections to the Greenway spine? Any thoughts on, how it can benefit, or if it's important to make those?
I did have one. So the Greenway sign, do you see that as walking path? What is exactly the vision for the big green?
Right, so that's a great question. So the Greenway spine itself would be an enhanced trail. We've tried to create a pathway here that largely follows the existing footprint of trails, although some of those are unpaved currently, some of those are overgrown. So yes, to make it a trail that is accessible to walkers, joggers, cyclists. And then the other piece of this is that supplements the Greenway spine are the ERTS trails that move along the primary roadways. But along the Greenway spine, it would be limited to a trail used by pedestrians and by cyclists.
Okay, I have no objection.
Okay, let's see. Ahmad?
No, I don't have any objections.
Okay, thank you. Nick Reinhardt?
Yeah, no objections. I like the description of, the opportunities for kind of stump seating along the trail. I thought that was a nice touch. That'll add to kind of the environmental resources that Lorton has already. So
Great, okay. Tim Reiser?
No, but I'm very puzzled by a comment in this. Lorton Vision Plan proposed a Greenway spine. Nick and others will remember we talked about the Greenway, the Pohick Creek and what could be done with it. And we were told it was a world-class, special, unique site of some outstanding quality or something. But I read here in the actual description here that these streams have been surveyed by the Department of Public Works and have determined to have a habitat scores from poor to good. So I'm a little lost as to how we had this really unique special place and now it's now a poor habitat.
Right. So, well, I won't speak to the people, for the people who wrote that report and analyzed the streams, but I would say that they are looking at the stream quality itself and that it's been eroded and degraded by the surrounding development. They also are looking at species that occur here and not many other places, like the magnolia bog, that's the pink area here next to B where I'm circling. And then there are a number of protected species in the area here that's called the seeps. And I don't know, all of that, but I do know that there's an ongoing battle. I think I think we are pushing the envelope here. So I will say that, yes, you were probably told that, and there's still a prevailing opinion with some in the county that deal with, protecting areas and environmentally sensitive areas who would like nothing to be seen here. But we are looking at this from, as a consultant coming in and saying, well, this is an area that's been prioritized, a focus area. There's an area that's fairly limited along Pohick Creek where trails already exist, where we recommend that there are trails so that people can connect to nature, they can connect to other areas, they can rely less on vehicles and more on, walking and biking and health, wellness, fitness. So it is a balanced approach, I would say, that we are recommending that is a counterpoint to people who would like to protect this area and have nothing happen here. We are trying to get momentum behind this so we can, make that a solid recommendation.
I appreciate that. I'm very much a proponent of this Greenway spine, and I would tell those in the county that are so concerned about it to say, well, then why do we have it run and go through, have the Noman Coal sewage treatment plant then to the Poet Creek if it's such a particularly important, quality corridor.
Right. I personally, I think we can achieve both, and we can protect those, those small areas of very, isolated and endangered species while still connecting people with nature and to other areas and while reducing vehicle emissions. All right. So let's go to Nick Firth.
I just like to agree with everything in that last sentence you just said.
Okay, noted. All right. Tim Sargent. Oh, anything further, Nick?
Just that I would like to think that we could improve and as well as protect and that the green spine. I think we've all been saying it for a long time. If there's the ability to incorporate this, there's always somebody who comes up with a unique way, and it's not up to us to necessarily bring that to fruition, but if it's on the table as a possible idea, everybody still has to go through the process. But
right,
you never know at some point where somebody comes up with something that everybody kind of latches onto and agrees with. We've all seen plenty of things in the RPA kind of shift along the way. I know where I live in Occoquan Overlook, they moved some, I think, 20 acres of the RPA. They moved the whole stream. Basically.
Okay.
They just decided they were going to reroute it.
Okay. Thanks. Tim Sargent.
No, I think overall this is fine. You may want some more clarification when it comes to programmable events. That's when the walking and bicycling concept may intersect with vehicles.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Okay. Linwood.
Need to state up front that I absolutely, completely, clearly have a direct conflict with this trail, which makes me extremely supportive of it. Being on the Park Authority Board, I'm responsible for getting it on the list of things to be put on the work plan to get this done. And I am very, very pleased that people want to make this a priority. Please help me push this through and get it done. One of its huge benefits from my perspective is that it will make the Laurel Hill area walkable to the town center there. Not a super short walk, but still a realistic walk. Mm-hmm. But you can't put me down for anything because I have a conflict, but I couldn't be more in support of this.
Okay, understood. I think I got through all the task force members. So if not, speak up now, but I'm going to keep moving this forward. Okay. Question 4 is the framework recommendations, acknowledge priorities the task force and the community have set for exploring pedestrian. Sorry, I'm going to speed read here. This just asks, should we explore similar connections south of Lorton Road? Any objections to this? From this group, I'm hearing that, the more connectivity is good, but any specific issues with connecting south of Lorton Road or increasing connectivity? Again, just an open floor question, because I think we can move on to the other questions here. Okay, I'm going to move on, but please jump in. Okay. Now we get into the idea of the arts trails, which again supplements the Greenway spine. It's basically the on-road supplement to the Greenway spine. It takes what is now just area dedicated to traffic, moving cars, and tries to, one, make better connectivity for pedestrians and cyclists, but also to highlight the identity expressed in moments of art. What we really looked at here was ideas similar to the Indianapolis Cultural Trail, some of what Reston Town Center has done. Actually, some of these images, I believe, are from where they've put murals up along trails to encourage people, express art, but also make it welcoming for people to use those and highlight that identity that I mentioned. We did think that these could be a variety. This isn't one size fits all. The primary arts trail is shown along Lorton Road and stretches, from point to point, where you would head up to Liberty all the way to Route 1. And then we identify these primary thresholds, which are really places for those larger, what could be larger art installations. And perhaps that's a light beacon here at Route 1, whereas the underpass lighting, a couple examples indicated by the present images here, could really be instrumental, more welcoming, take away that, it's not a nice, pleasant place to walk. It really could be more inviting and actually a destination that you might want to take your kids to at night. Certainly would help with the pedestrian traffic from the auto train down to Lorton Marketplace. Others along these secondary arts trails, these would be smaller art installations, would help to promote local artists. There could be RFPs put out to local artists for art installations, such as a mural along a trail, or the developer could pay. We did 1% for art in Columbia, and that paid for many gateway sculptures throughout downtown so far. 1%, for one of our projects was $450,000 for art installations just for one multifamily building built in Columbia. So I'm just saying that it definitely could be partially funded by the development at these opportunity sites with redevelopment happening. It can also be, through grant money that might help to put some installations along the trails. But basically, did we hit the right points here? Did we hit the right points with naming this area as the primary arts trail? And then these other areas as important, it's kind of secondary, where there'd be smaller art installations and ped bike trails along the road. I'm sorry, I'll go through the group again. I'm going to start with Linwood this time.
Yeah, I think you did kind of miss it. I think it's more appropriate going between Lorton Station and Gunston Plaza, as I kind of expressed in some of my earlier comments tonight. The traffic load here makes this a pretty unfriendly pedestrian corridor, where you've got the primary one. And I see potential to minimize traffic through Lorton Station with certain kinds of redevelopment, but there's just no alternate routes for Lorton Road. So I think Lorton Road's tough for that. I love this concept, though. I love the theme and the concept.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Nick?
Which one?
Oh, sorry, Nick first.
Yeah, I mean, most of the art, I guess, is centered, over at the workhouse. Is kind of, where you think of the art. I mean, I guess if we're using art to kind of, augment and, highlight the area, but just to kind of, use it to help promote some of the other things that we want to see in that kind of downtown core area, then yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to dilute what's happening at workhouse arts, but I think, supplementing and really imbuing this whole area with arts would help to strengthen that identity.
Can we get away without defining a primary route and just make it a theme throughout the whole study area?
Yeah. I mean, I think, yes, I don't know that we need to create primary and secondary. We could just, make them all and indicate locations. I do think it's necessary to have kind of these larger thresholds identified, if you agree with those, because it is the entry points into the area specifically, whereas these are other minor. So I would say, yeah, it might be more important to have the hierarchy between the location of the specific art, potential specific art installations versus the type of trail. So yeah, it's a good idea. Tim Sargent, anything to add on that?
I tend to agree with those comments with Linwood in terms of not emphasizing the trail as a priority, as primary, but certainly providing the locations along the way.
Okay. Good. Let's go to Tim Reiser next.
Yeah, again, I'm fine with art trails and whatnot. To keep in mind, Lorton Road, as it's currently set up, is as Rachel from the county says, that's a car sewer, and it provides no benefit to anybody except outside of the county, and we should be looking at potentially trying to make that less of a car sewer and more of so I agree with you. Linwood is not currently set up very nicely for pedestrian, but it could be much more pedestrian friendly.
Yeah.
I just don't know where else to put that sewage we're talking about.
Yeah, I know. Back on 95 where it was really coming from. Again, keep in mind, some of that comes onto our roads because 95 gets backed up at the usual spot. That's being addressed separately, and hopefully they will resolve that issue. The latest change on, with what's taking place on there right now. Of course, that until we then put up the commanders, and then you can ruin every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
That's absolutely right. I remember I lived in Springfield, kind of off of Alban Road, and before they widened that section, down from that area down into Lorton, that was always the backup. It always kind of started there, and people were jumping off there. And I'm hoping that when they open up the I-95 south lane that's under construction, that it'll punt it a bit further down the line. So you might see some alleviation of the traffic if that happens. They also need to fix the Old Bridge intersection there, which causes 123 to back up every day.
That is also currently got funded.
Yeah. So if you could solve those two, and make Lorton Road a less desirable route for outsiders, I think that would be a big improvement in slowing down that corridor.
Okay, I'm going to jump to Ahmad on this one.
Yeah, no, I agree with everyone else.
Okay.
I definitely I like the concept with respects to where it is, but I think from my standpoint, where I'm currently in the same mind frame of the workhouse being kind of a centralized theme, and I need to think more
That's fair.
more openly with respects to how to envision piecing it all together, because to me, I would think as the workhouse as being the centralized location where all of this art and stuff would eventually, I guess my model would be kind of, you would see like sculptures, which ultimately would lead you to the workhouse, which would be kind of the shopping center equivalent of a cultural diverse center. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's right. Yeah, you don't want to dilute what's there. You don't want to undermine what they're doing, but it is nice to give people kind of lay the breadcrumbs, so to speak, out and draw
Correct.
people to that.
The yellow brick road to eyes.
Mhm. Right.
Yeah.
Very,
But
that was great thoughts.
Yeah.
Angelique? Down at the bottom, there should be an unmute button. Yeah,
Sorry,
we
I
got it.
switched from
I
phone
saw.
to computer.
Yeah.
I concur with everyone else, but the only thing that I would like to add, just in case we don't get to that slide in time, I know people are talking about the Lorton sewage, but I believe it's Lorton residents that need the escape on Lorton Road. And to the earlier comments today about, creating step 0. And I requested this about a couple of meetings ago regarding how are we going to fix getting into Lorton from the Lorton exit going south. I sent some recommendations a couple of times, making 2 right lanes coming off of Lorton South, as well as Lorton Station Boulevard going south, making 2 right turning lanes.
I see. So coming south on Lorton Road and turning onto Lorton Station Road, coming on to Lorton Road, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. All right.
That I-95 one, I think, is really not that difficult of a fix. It is a great suggestion. The land is there. I mean, it just is I'm not going to say it's a cheap project, but just to widen it and stripe it, it is, they own the property. So, right now as you come off, and we've all seen it, sometimes you see those big tractor trailers just taking a break on the shoulder there. Certainly on the southbound. That would be a bit of an easy fix, and certainly the two right turn lanes. We've got a lot more people now who are going straight down Lorton Road into where Angelique you are in Lorton Valley and beyond to Cross Point and so forth. Those people would happily be in what would be kind of a center right turn lane, and let the people who are making a right onto to go up to Laurel Hill.
Sorry, I'm gonna
take that
call.
right turn lane.
I 100% agree. And that's why I'm saying, I'm not sure what the analogy is calling Lorton Road the sewage. But what I wanted to say is the Lorton residents are the ones trying to use that road as the major gateway to get to their homes.
Yep.
Understood. Let's see. I think Nick Reinhardt's the last to weigh in on this. And then I'm going to ask Megan if she can check in. Before you answer, Nick, I'm going to ask Megan if she can check in to see how long of an extension we can have, maybe with Steve or yourself determining. And because I think we definitely need 15 to 30 minutes more to get through. Okay, so Nick Reinhardt, any other further thoughts?
No, I'm in concurrence with everyone else.
Okay, thank you. Let me just, I think we're getting kind of into the meat of the development. So let me go into this next question, but I might skip through some of these questions so that we can get to the questions on the prioritization of opportunity sites and what we think is what you would envision there in terms of intensity, density, amenities, open space, et cetera. So let me just dive in. I'm gonna, unless Megan objects, I want to get to the heart of this and ask folks here, which, and we've heard some opinions, but which of the opportunity sites do you feel is most viable, that you think is most interesting, do you think is most critical? However the priority you would put on the opportunity sites, given that we may, development may need to be concentrated rather than spread thin. I would recommend that we'd rather see concentration on one area versus disparate and not, and it doesn't build up. The sum of the parts isn't going to be valuable if it's spread out and dispersed. We had targeted, and I'll say this just, because we skipped the presentation for those who hadn't read through everything. We targeted Gunston Plaza for a number of reasons. One is the age of the center. It's older. It doesn't have new development coming in. The developer is potentially looking at a corner of the site to redevelop. And the width of it, the confluence of Lorton Road, Route 1, the Greenway spine, Lorton Station Boulevard plugging in makes that, a very, in terms of connectivity, a very centralized location at the confluence of a lot of nice elements. So I'd like to dive in there and just see if people disagree with Gunston Plaza as being the priority, not that other things can't happen at the other places, but if you wanted to see, you know, a more intense mixed use development, where would it go? And then we'll talk a little bit about the uses that you see there, if they differ from ours. We had seen what we had just put forth is that some multifamily, maybe some single family attached with some retail and entertainment uses. Certainly the place, if it is the core, to have a central green or commons, as well as some, you know, supplemental spaces that might add recreation that we know is needed in the area, and that might buffer to a nearby location like the fire station. Might not be the best place to put residential right up across the street, but having some courts, some recreation, tennis courts, et cetera, there might help to give a buffer to the other uses. But, you know, a very active center here is what we projected. So I'm going to go through the group and just ask if you have opinions contrary to that, other thoughts on that, or other uses that you'd recommend in that. And Megan, sorry, go ahead before we get into the.
Yep, I just wanted to say that we do have another 15 minutes, probably maybe more like 13 now, but it may be worth just checking to see if everybody who's remaining on the, I know Nick Reinhardt had to drop off, but if everyone on the group has the ability to stay on for another 13 minutes, or if anyone needs to drop off, maybe we prioritize their comments now.
Right. That's a great thought. Does anyone, to that note, does anyone have to leave within the next 13 minutes? Okay. Tim?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So then let's hang in there for another 13, give it all we've got, and go through the group. I'll start with Ahmad on this one, since you kind of launched us into this and started, you know, kind of asking those questions. And what are your thoughts on that and the prioritization and the vision for those?
Well, you know, it's funny because I was just working the farmer's market at the VRE station on Sunday, as a matter of fact. I feel like the Lorton Station Town Center has unlimited amount of potential, because I don't know about you guys, but you know, mass transit is the way of the future. I don't care if you go anywhere across Europe, and even in the city, some of the cities that you guys were saying that you developed, they have the light rail capabilities. You know, I feel like that has the potential to get the most people to where we're going. And to point back to what Angelique was saying, you know, the smell when it comes to Gunston Plaza in that area, it will be a deterrent. You know, you don't want to have like an outside play area and it stinks, or, you know, just for lack of a prettier word.
Mhm.
So to me, I feel like the rail capability at Lorton Station Town Center is attractive because it will give an opportunity to get more people there to that particular site. And I think I overheard somewhere today when they were talking about, with this whole Commanders project, developing the rail system and developing a partnership with VRE where they will extend in the hours for VRE.
Right. Great. Okay. Tim Reiser.
I'm not sure I'm following what the comment is on.
So I'm just asking your opinion. We didn't present this fully, but if I know you read through the description, we had looked at Gunston Plaza as the main focus point and looked at it as that kind of mid-rise mixed use, name the mix of uses. But what are your thoughts on that? Do you agree, disagree? Do you agree with that prioritization, and any other thoughts?
Okay, sorry. So Gunston Plaza is and has been the center core of this task force since it began. Everybody already knows and everybody recognizes that Gunston Plaza is the biggest opportunity and the biggest focus of where this thing could be. So I think we all know this. I don't think you need to go around that often to get it, because we've talked about it for years.
Okay. Nonetheless, I will. I'll go to Tim Sargent. Any other thoughts? And it could be as fine grained as the uses there, the height, density, if you wanted to give input on that, not just where the prioritization is, but the uses suggested and the intensity of development, number of stories.
Probably intensity of development is one of the big drivers for that area, for sure. I mean, you're going to have more opportunities for that kind of scale and mass along there. I do agree you're going to have to mitigate summer smells if you considered high density in that area. It is a problem, and you're also going to have to contend with some traffic heading down that way. And certainly make sure that you've got the kind of connectivity that I was talking about in terms of light rail and future rail too. So,
Okay. Angelique, thoughts on this?
Well, I joined the committee, I think later after. So I would say C is my first preference.
Okay, Lorton Marketplace, yes.
Lorton Marketplace. And if you can make that Greenway concept come to fruition, A, but if not, I will go with the Gunston location. Because of the aging, it needs to be updated. And then also have the opportunities facing the community, not facing Route 1, or be a
Right.
combination of both.
Okay, right. So face Lorton Road. Now it turns its back on it. You'd like to see that flipped
Yes.
and addressed. Okay.
But I definitely say C from being a resident and not in the focused area. I can get to C quicker than I can get to all the other locations. Walking.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. Let's see, where am I? Nick Firth.
Megan has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Megan. Did you want to jump in here?
My apologies. I think I neglected to put it down.
No.
Put it down now.
Yeah, I definitely think, Gunston Plaza is underserved to the community besides those things that are, kind of the post office and the DMV that are there. But I think it would be, we've all talked about it before, picking it up and turning it around. So it faces Lorton Road and having, better walkability, on Lorton Road. And certainly turning its back and its nose to the Noman Coal facility.
Okay. Let's see, Linwood.
I'm kind of staying where I was at as far as yes, B is the primary. I'd like to see it expanded towards A. I think that we have some consolidation potential in the single family detached houses just up Lorton Station Boulevard from there. And
Okay.
also, we talked about literally years ago now, I talked about at least, Megan will remember this, the Woods of Fairfax. And I think the Woods of Fairfax is also prime for redevelopment, where if you consolidate those single family detached in the Woods of Fairfax right there, all of a sudden you've got a big potential for redevelopment right there at B that goes towards A. And then the A pulls in all of Ahmad's comments about the public transportation and stuff like that, VRE, a potential metro in the future, that kind of stuff. But B going towards A.
Okay. Understood. All right. I mean, hearing this, there are some, difference of opinions, but generally sounds like Gunston Plaza with that connection, Lorton Station seems to be floating to the surface. Does anybody, what do you think in terms of, if I threw out numbers of stories just to end on this, would you think 5, 6 stories, up to 6 stories would be something you had in mind there, or is that way out of the ballpark of what? Because I think, in terms of what would you need to incentivize development to make this happen? Having done a lot of developer projects, we do find that you need to replace 1-story retail, you do need to get up to that 5 to 6-story range to make it enticing, to make it worthwhile to redevelop there. Is that something you all could get behind, or is that something that you think is too high? Is 4 stories the limit? Love to hear opinions on that.
This is Linwood. My opinion is 6 is a little too tall for my taste, not way out of the ballpark, but
Okay.
4 would be my preference. 5 I could tolerate. 6 is starting to kind of get up there.
Okay. Others? It's open floor. I'm not going to go through the roll call, so just jump in.
I would say that, you're going to have to, there's been some big purchases in this area, and then the real estate market has been hot. You've got Gunston Plaza sold for $47 million. So you're going to have to incentivize people, enough. 6 would be my max, but I think you're going to need realistically 5 to 6, at least in certain portions of it. I think we've seen that 2 to 3 is not sufficient, and I don't think that 3 to 4 or even 4 to 5 might be a big enough leap to make it happen. But 6 would definitely be my max as well. But I think realistically, the 5 to 6, you're going to have it to bring enough of the density.
Okay. Others, Angelique, Tim, other thoughts, Ahmad?
Yeah, I concur with the 5 to 6.
Okay.
Because I mean, just, as far as the particular area is concerned, but yeah, I'm kind of along the same lines with Nick with respects to the 5 to 6.
Okay.
Yeah, I would concur. I think 6 is fine. I mean, really the bigger question isn't so much that. The question is, what does it take to be able to enough people in the center core that makes this become and has a sense of feeling of, and so what's that level of density? But I know I've looked at the actual purchase and the values of all the parcels and the densities and how much they're in, and you're going to need to make some pretty good incentives to be able to get anybody to do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Anyone else want to weigh in on this? Otherwise, I think we're probably due to wrap up. Megan, are we going to be called back to the main room, or are we to just end when we end?
I had said 8:50, but Leah, do you know if if it's set to expire, the breakout rooms?
No, I can end it whenever.
Okay. Do we want to do you want to take a few minutes to wrap up, Cecily, or should we just leave the room and go back to the main room?
Well, I would just, I'm sure you'll hit this in the wrap up, but I would just say, from my own standpoint, I think this discussion was good. It gets to the point of getting some unity on the thinking, agreement on the framework plans, and will help to launch us into the concept plans. And really, we started to look at those. I think we'd love to get in and start drawing those in more detail to really show you all, again, to answer Tim's question about what would it take to make it have a sense of place, get that enough density to make it feel like a viable core, enough density to be a viable project for a developer, at least get a sense of that, and then see if that's all compatible with the vision that you all have in mind. So I'll leave it at that. If you haven't, I would say if you have any other questions on the framework plans, channel those through the county and let us know. Do take some time to go through the text and the drawings there. And if you have anything else to add, please do. We don't want to rush you, but I think this was a much more valuable conversation than us going through the presentation. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Cecily. So do we can just, if we click leave room, we'll go back into the central.
Yes. You should be
meeting,
able to.
correct? Okay. Okay.
Thank you all.
All right. Thank you.